Not everybody is prepared for an SHTF situation. For some people, their entire plan involves sitting someplace strategic, waiting for a guy to come walking down the road with a backpack full of goods, and shazam. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about being tactical during an SHTF situation and what we need. Nobody makes it on their own. You need a group of 3, 4, 5. We recommend 5 to 10 people. And you don't have to be a tactical Tom in order to be safe and tactical. Anybody can do this.
Hey folks, my name's John and welcome to episode 8 in a series we're doing on SHTF, or shit hits the fan. Today's episode is about long-term bug out. A lot of people were asking me to do this. We did a bug out bag episode recently and I got a lot of response about that. We went in a lot of detail about the contents, but it was basically a short-term bug out bag. So people wanted to know, what do you do for more long-term bug outs? When we're talking long-term bug out bags, we're talking about, basically a tactical bug out. You're going to be out in the woods or removed from your home for an extended period of time. Hopefully you have a location that you're heading towards, but you got to be prepared for whatever. So if you're new to the channel, this is not really for tactical Tom, like the guy who's, was in Delta Force or something like that. And, he's got an armory in his basement and he knows exactly what to do and all that stuff. This is more, like for family oriented kind of episodes. So, I have a military background, but that was like, 30 years ago or something like that. I was in the military. It was a long time ago. And quite honestly, the military prepares you for a lot of things and it's great training, but in an actual SHTF situation, it's not necessarily the best training. When you're in the military, you have a job and you have Big Brother, okay? And it's Big Brother's job to make sure you have everything you need. And believe me, they're very good at that, If there's anything missing or substandard, you just tell your squad leader, he tells your platoon sergeant, he tells the first sergeant, he picks up the phone and screams at somebody, and 10 minutes later, a plane is landing with everything you need. And that's how the military works. But in the civilian world, we're really on our own.
All right, folks, we're back in the studio. So let's get into this and talk about the plan and how you go about setting yourself up for a tactical bug out, meaning you're able to defend yourself against predators, be they animals or people, and you're also able to carry the creature comforts that you need. You need food and water and medical supplies. You need hygiene, all kinds of stuff. And we're going to go through real quickly what we're going to pack, but I think we covered that better in a previous video, but I'll do a quick dive into what you probably should pack. The basic principle here is we're talking about a long-term bug out, right? Like 5-7 days, maybe longer. And the primary thing you want to carry is food and water. And in order to carry enough food and water for, say, 2 people for 5 days or 7 days, you need a lot of backpacks. Okay? It takes up a lot of space. I mean, a gallon a day per person. Now, that's granted on the high end, but you do need a quart for drinking. You need a quart for cooking. You need a quart for hygiene. Basically per person per day. All these, meals that you buy, they're great for this kind of situation because they're very compact, the adventure meals and things like that, or MREs or whatever you're getting. They are compact, they're lightweight, but they still take up space, right? And in order to put like 10 or 20 of them and then put in like 3 or 4 gallons of water into a backpack, that is a whole lot. So the first thing I want to talk about is the turtles. The turtles are like when you have like your large hiking backpack or your large bug out bag and it's got everything you need for a week in it or enough for 2 people for a week in it. That's a huge bag and it's going to weigh like 60, 70 pounds maybe. I don't know. It's going to weigh a lot and it's going to leave you pretty vulnerable. Like anybody can just come and push you over and you're going to fall on your back and you'll be like what I call a turtle, like easy prey for anybody. So let's talk about how you strategically prevent the turtle situation. Okay, so basically you want to divide things up into a rule of 3. There's 3 bags and you spread the stuff you need amongst them. So you have your first bag is like your pace setter with the most supplies. Then you have a middle bag, which is half defense and half supplies. And then you have your smaller bag, which is your most mobile, and that one's going to be primarily just for defense. Now, each bag should have enough in it that nobody's completely screwed if they get, separated from the group. So there's more to this plan than just the physical aspects. There's a psychological aspect to it too. It's a part of team building. All right. If you have two individuals and they know they can survive on their own, they're going to be less cohesive than if you have three people who are dependent on each other. So like the person who has the bigger backpack knows they need the other two people to stay safe. And the people who have the smaller backpack know they're going to be a lot more comfortable if they have the people with the bigger backpack with them. You see what I'm saying? So there's a psychology behind it, and that's very important. It's part of team building, and it will help keep your group together, which is the best thing you can do in the long run. Nobody makes it on their own. Now, before we talk about what to pack, there are some things that you don't want to pack if you're going to be crossing the mountains or going out in the deep woods, because bears are a serious threat and they have a great sense of smell. They love anything that smells like mint or anything that smells like fruit. So don't put that kind of stuff in your backpack if you're going into the woods. Do not put this in your backpack, okay? You keep this on your person, your bear spray. A bear can cross a distance of about 100 yards in a matter of seconds. By the time you get your backpack off, it will be all over you. But anyway, let's talk about the stuff you do want to pack. First thing is navigation stuff. You want to have a map and a magnifying glass. If you watch my navigation video, you'll know why. You want to have that so you don't get lost. You know where you're going, you know where you're going to, and where you're coming from, and all that stuff. In this day and age, you want to get some kind of a solar charger for your devices, your phones and stuff like that. And if the cell service is down, your phone still has embedded maps in it, and you can actually create maps and routes and stuff with like Waze or a bunch of different programs and save it on your phone. And as long as you have a charge on your phone, you can pull up those maps and follow them. And if the satellite systems are working, you're still going to see that blue dot on your map, and it'll find you. So definitely get some kind of a charger. Toilet paper isn't obvious, but food, get some kind of adventure food, camping food, MREs or something like that, because that takes up a lot of space. Water, I think we talked about, you need a ton of that, but you're never going to have enough water, okay? Eventually you're going to run out, so you need some way of purifying water. You need stuff to cook in, okay? You need some kind of a medical kit in case you get hurt. Don't pack a surgical kit unless you're a surgeon, all right? Because you do more harm than good. Take some basic clothes, all right? It's good to have, but space-wise, if you have to cut back, maybe it's just socks and underwear. Some hygiene stuff, a towel, something to wash your face with, something to wash yourself with. Like I said, don't take anything that has scent in it. You need some kind of protection from the elements, and you need some basic tools. Here we go. A hatchet, because if you're going to have to build a fire, you're going to have to cut some wood, and that can be very difficult if you don't have a tool. And I always say, take string. All right, this is one of my favorite things to pack, and when I go on my little adventures and stuff like that, I like to go out in the woods. If you give me enough string like this, I can build you a city, all right? You just go cut down some branches or find some broken branches and stuff like that. Tie them to a tree, make yourself a shelter, make yourself some camouflage. You can do a whole lot with this, all right? You're going to need it to hold your pots and pans off of your fire, things like that. It comes in very handy. A lot of people are like trying to sell like all this expensive cord and stuff like that. You don't really need it. It might be useful for like, what you're using to like hoist your food and disposables off the ground with, but other than that, it's a clothesline, right? You don't really need it. This stuff is great. It's cheap. It doesn't take up much space, and you can reuse it if you need to. You need a bedroll, and you need some ammunition, and you should probably take a tent. So I have these tents. I buy them, on like Facebook Marketplace for like $20, $25. They're used tents. I don't spend a lot of money on them because you never know if you're going to use them, but I do use them. I take them out. In fact, I'm heading up to New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine. I'm going to be doing some camping, so you'll probably see some videos coming out of there in the near future. Make a bedroll and a little shelter out of this for your smaller bags, so if they get separated, they're not completely screwed. What else? What else? So I see people like recommending this stuff, all right? And I'm like, why would you want to do that? I mean, if you're taking kids, you know, that's going to be cool. Like, they'll have a good time. But it's actually pretty smart, okay? So if you're trying to be tactical and trying to be unseen at night, so these things, right? You just break them and they glow in the dark, right? And what I'm going to do here in a second is try to show you how these work. So people talk about these glow sticks, right? Like, why would you take these, you know? They look like fun, but they make a lot of sense, okay? So for tactical purposes, you're trying not to be seen by other people, but you want your group to see it. If you're traveling at night, especially in the woods, it can get really dark, okay? And these actually cast a light like down by your feet, so you can kind of see what you're stepping on, but they're not casting a broad light like a flashlight will, okay? If you need to be more discreet, you can just put your shirt over it, okay? You can still see them, and the people in your group can still see them, but you're far less visible from far away. If there's an emergency or, you know, a threat appears, you can just put your hand over it, you can put it in your pocket, you can do whatever, it just goes away. You know, but these are kind of good to have. So I saw them and I thought, wow, that's really silly. And then I got some and I tried them out and I was like, wow, okay, that's not really that silly. So get yourself some of these. So a quick recap of what we covered. Okay, so you want to divide your stuff up so you're more tactical, you're a lot safer. Okay, keep most of your supplies in one bag and most of your defensive stuff in another. You can add more people to your group. Just add another 3, add another 2, add another 1 in that order, and you'll be exponentially safer that way. Having kids is an asset. Like I said, they're like little pack mules. They can carry a lot more supplies than what they use. So make sure you use them and include them. And remember, prepping isn't about just buying stuff. Get out there and use it. Have some fun. The shit hasn't hit the fan yet. All right, folks, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed the video and you got something out of it. Remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out. All right, peace out, everybody.